This post I received in my email today is about 8 symptoms of OCD we don't talk about. But on top of that, this is basically a relationship PTSD, signs of relationship PTSD. Okay, so, and I feel like these are some things that you should watch out for in your relationship. So the first one is feeling an overwhelmed sense of responsibility. And I feel like we don't really need to talk about these feelings really, because we know what, feeling overwhelmed, is. And then that sense of responsibility, basically, it's all the weight is on you and you're kind of feeling weighed down because you're not being met halfway. Physical pain. Okay, so since there's a lot of different, ways we can go about physical pain, we're going to see how physical pain affects the relationship. Those who are battling OCD have become very skilled at becoming uncomfortable, have a new baseline of discomfort, one that many would most likely find appalling, not only mental discomfort, to put it mildly, but physical as well. I'm sure that physical pain manifests differently for each of us depending on the type of OCD we endure, but such constant mental distress is bound to affect the body. And I can definitely relate to this, because if you're really weighed down by a lot of mental activity, this is going to weigh you down physically. You have to make sure that you are well, mentally, and that there's balance between this. But another thing that I want to talk about is intimacy. I know this is kind of off topic, but it's kind of a thing with physical pain as well, because there's a lot of women out here that have been through a lot of surgical processes and stuff. And this is just a question that I want to just kind of address or confront. So how do you men feel about a woman not being intimate because of physical pain? Would you not even deal with her? Or would you, stick around? I guess this would definitely call for celibacy, but at the same time, it's just like, there's a lot of unfortunate women that cannot have sex or cannot be intimate as any other woman would. So what would you feel about this? Like, would you call it off completely? Or would you stay with that woman and make her feel comfortable and find ways to kind of beat around the bush in a way? So this woman said she had OCD. She had washed her hands until they were cracked and bleeding. But OCD doesn't care about your pain. Even though rewashing my hands causes searing pain, OCD tells me I must or I threaten the health and safety of those around me. Once again, playing on my sense of responsibility can convince me I must sacrifice my own well-being for the sake of others. Yes, man. Okay, so I really agree with that this is most likely personality, OCD, personality disorder, because I can definitely relate to that. So, yeah. So 3, experiencing suicidal thoughts. We don't have to get too much into detail about that, but you've become, it's kind of having like a weakness, in a relationship. You got that partnership, but if you're not really catering to yourself or taking care of yourself, it can lead to suicidal thoughts, because for one, you're not taking care of yourself mentally, you're not taking care of yourself physically, and then spiritually, you're also neglecting yourself. So yes, this can lead to becoming suicidal, realizing how much time has been lost. A lot of times we kind of allow our past to consume us, and we kind of feel an urge to kind of break away, in our relationship. And we're like, what? I lost so much time doing this in the past. I lost so much time doing that in the past. I wonder if I can do it now. And don't allow these thoughts to get the best of you. You must appreciate the moment, acknowledge the moment, and be grateful for what you have. Because if not, you're just only taking it for granted. And, this can really fall back on you, because you have to think about who you are in a relationship with and who you are sharing your life with. Because if you waste any of your time going back, you'll waste their time, and that time will come back on you. So yes, I definitely believe in karma, and I feel like karma plays a huge role when it comes to mental health. OCD is a time-consuming disorder. They often measure by many hours per day. Obsessive thoughts consume them, and don't let your thoughts get the best of you. Losing relationships because of OCD. While OCD consumes your time, it can also consume a little bit of you. You spend your energy every day fighting this battle, and you have less and less left over to share. The longer I've been in this fight, the more I have seen a growing distance between me and all those I care about. Different things feed that distance. OCD is confusing, even from the inside, so it can seem absolutely foreign to those on the outside. I have less to give, and I have withdrawn from the life I used to live due to fear. With that impossible sense of responsibility that OCD hands you, it convinces you to keep your distance, convince you to make mistakes and misfortune follow you like a shadow. Unlike time, these losses are not permanent. Those who love you will be waiting for you to come back to them. It just takes more time and a lot of willpower. So this resonates with me completely, because I literally just had a conversation about, me trying to withdraw myself away from a relationship due to fear. And I told this person that I was fearful, and that I'm kind of afraid because of past trauma, past experiences, and repetition. So it's like I felt those emotions consuming me. I felt that anger, towards the situation, that frustration towards the situation, because all I needed was understanding. I needed clarity that I didn't receive a long time ago. And some relationships are more so for that. God brings you back into those experiences so that you can get the clarity that you needed a long time ago. It's a lot of, it's those times in the past that we didn't get that clarity. So we hold on and we hold on until we get some type of closure. Closure, not from the relationship itself, but more so closure towards that wound. Whatever happened back then, it hurt you and it caused you pain because you were in it. You gave all that you could. That you were considerate. That you were true. That you were honest. That you were very emotional, and all you wanted was the same in return. But you couldn't get that, closure to the situation. When you have a question with someone or you have a question for someone, it's best that that person gives you some type of, closure. And if they can't, then you let it go. If they do give you that closure, then you can move on or you can walk away. Okay, I have closure. Now I'm good. Now I have clarity towards the situation. Now I'm good and I'm going to leave, Or now I have clarity and we can move on. But if that person don't provide clarity for you and they leave you stuck in that pain and that confusion, it's best to let go. It's best to let go. So you can lose relationships because of OCD. And like I said, I struggle with this a lot. Not only those type of relationships. Well, that statement or what that I just said goes for all relationships, family members, friends, loved ones, businesses as well. You in a business, and if they can't give you clarity, then you can let that job go and go to another job. It's as simple as that. You may fear, oh yeah, if I lose this job or I let go of this job, dang, what I'm gonna do? But there's plenty of jobs that are for you. Let go and move on and know that you are worth more. You are worth more. And if that job doesn't appreciate you enough for you to have your sanity, then let it go, because they're confusing you for a reason. The same as, going to church and stuff. The same thing that I went through today. It becomes confusing until you get some type of understanding. If you can't get understanding to it, then it's time to let go of that church. It's time to move on and go somewhere else. This thought actually came to mind when I was at church today. I'm like, you know what? The way things are going, I'm really getting frustrated now. The way things are going, I feel mistreated. I feel hurt because it's not the same anymore. People are confusing me. People are mistreating me. People aren't listening. They're not taking the time to listen. Everyone wants to be right. And that's when you say, it's time to go. It's time to let go. And it's time to move on. When you feel like you're not being heard, don't be afraid to walk away, because that's what God is telling you. It's time to go. So number six, feeling a loss of independence or a sense of self. Think about a moment when you have been terrified. How did you get through it? A moment that you have been terrified. How did you get through it? When we're scared, it's often instinct to reach out to someone we trust to help us through it. So when you're living with OCD, living with constant fear, you can become incredibly codependent. This is something that my sister is going through right now. She is very spiritual, and she has a lot of support in many areas of her life, but the support that she doesn't have is when it comes to spirituality. She needs a release. She needs an outlet. She needs someone that she can talk it out to. She hasn't learned another way. This has been her way for a very long time. So she's becoming codependent on those relationships that, only support her in so many areas. But this area, those relationships don't support her. So now she's becoming frustrated and she's becoming scared because she doesn't understand what's happening around her. So she asked my mom the other day. Well, she asked my mom today, and she was telling my mom how, she's been feeling spiritual presences, in her work environment. She's been witnessing a lot of she's been witnessing her patients moving differently with her, and they're scaring her because she doesn't know what's going on. And she tries to talk to my mom about it, but my mom is very closed-minded to the situation. She doesn't have that outlet, so she came to me today, and I talked to her. I let her vent, because sometimes she just needs to be heard. She needs time to collect herself and gather her thoughts so that she can gain the strength that she needs to fight off whatever she's fighting, whatever God is presenting to her. God is trying to get through to her, to help her. And she needs some type of reassurance, of her mind, of her experiences, and speaking to those people that support her in different areas aren't giving her this type of support. And this is what she needs, is to feed her spirit. But she can't do that. And just like she said, they keep telling her to be still, sit down, be quiet. And that was, I feel like that was a goal today. That was a goal. And that's the goal in a lot of people's lives going on right now. You have to be still. But, I don't know. I really don't know too much about her situation. But I know that this is a form of OCD. Feeling a loss of independence, it's hard for her to be alone in a way, because she has become very codependent on everybody else that did support her. And now she's being treated as if she doesn't have the strength to go on, but that's what she's been given off, So it says when you're living with OCD, living in constant fear, you can become incredibly codependent. A very common safety behavior across various types of OCD is that seeking assurance. OCD can convince your minds that we can no longer determine right from wrong or be safe from danger, and therefore we can come to depend on someone else to determine that for us by seeking their assurance. With a constant fear, the need for assurance, and the fact that compulsions can be so incredibly debilitating, it can feel as though you're independent and the things that made you who you are being swept away. Before being diagnosed with OCD, I was my own person with hobbies, jobs, friends, school, and a career plan. But not too long ago, I was lucky to make it out of the house with at least once a week. And those short excursions out into the world took a lot of effort and a lot of help from my partner, often resulting in an incredible amount of distress on both our parts. Before being diagnosed with OCD, I was a partner. I was an equal in a relationship. I could support as much as I was supported, but there was a long period that when relationships transformed into one between caretaker and patient, rather than one being loving partners, I had lost the independence required to create an equal partnership. The simple truth is that OCD can consume you at all times, and when it does, it can feel like you completely lose yourself. That's the battle we face fighting our way out of OCD's shadow. We may never be able to completely get rid of OCD, but we can make it just that, a shadow. And that's deep right there. I love that part. We may not never be able to completely get rid of OCD, but we can make it just that, a shadow. So yeah, like I said, that's the thing about having feeling a loss of independence or a sense of self, is that when you deal with this, it can also interfere with your work. Just like they said, your work, your school, anything that you got going on in your life, it can interfere to the point where you're losing stuff. She just spoke about she lost her car. She's no longer going to school. She's having, complications with friendships. And there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to support. So the best way you can really do this is that, not really brushing it off, not that type of shadow, but being aware, oh yeah, this is a shadow, being aware of your shadow, acknowledging that shadow, and really just paying attention to, that shadow from now on. Pay attention to that shadow, become aware to that shadow, become aware of what you're going through, sort it out, figure it out, work on yourself, take some time away from those relationships. That's what I used to do. When I felt a little bit too codependent, I stepped away. There was this time where I had came home and I was going through a spiritual phase, and all my paintings was off the wall. I panicked. I ran to a neighbor's house. I told the neighbor. My neighbor contacted my family. They came and talked to me. I went to the closest place possible because I knew this was, weird. This was strange. How did my paintings get on the floor? I freaked out. But I couldn't go to my family's house. I couldn't stay at my neighbor's house. I had to face it. And I went home and I sat there, anxiety filling my body, shaking on the inside. I sat there for a very long time. And sometimes you gotta let this presence know, or wherever you're at, you have to let it be known that this is my home and I'm not going nowhere. You have to claim your dominance. This is me. This is my home. This is my territory, and I won't be scared off. And you have to sit with that presence, just like that shadow. You have to sit with that shadow, and you have to say, you're just a shadow. You're my shadow. You're just a shadow. You won't hurt me. I won't fear. I'm more powerful. You have to take presence back into your own body and truly believe that you are strong enough, and God has you. God got you through. God will get you through. And you just slowly pick up those paintings one by one. All of those pictures that fell off the wall, pick them up one by one, slowly, but eventually you'll notice all of your pictures are back on the wall. Experiencing a poor quality of life. So, this can have so much of an effect on your life that, everything was going good, and now you see that everything in your life isn't going so great. And that's because, with this going on, it's like having a earthquake. It's like an earthquake rattling, shaking everything up, stirring everything up in your home, in your life. And now you are left to pick up everything and put them back the way it was. So that's my perspective, but we're going to go ahead and read it. Anxiety and depression greatly affects a person's quality of life. And when you add a debilitating obsessive thoughts and compulsions, your world can become very small. My OCD has visibly hurt hurt my quality of life from mental and physical health to outward appearance to social engagement. People would see these changes in their lives differently depending on their depression or the type of OCD. But no matter your battle, there is no denying the draining effects that mental illness has on a person's life. Very draining, and I feel like a lot of people don't take this seriously. It's very serious, and it's not an easy, quick fix. It's very draining when you go through these symptoms every single day and you have to just keep getting up and putting yourself back together. Many people who suffer from depression or OCD will find themselves unable to gather the willpower to perform basic self-care, such as brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, showering, doing laundry. In my case, this manifests as showering too much, being able to keep up with laundry. That's how I am now, my clothes are filled up again. My dirty laundry basket is filled up again. I find myself taking showers probably 2 to 3 times a day, and this is becoming a bad habit. And having a difficult time feeding myself. Just like this whole weekend, I barely got any food in my stomach. I ate noodles and I barely ate at all. And when you're taking medicine or you're taking vitamins and you don't feed yourself, this can definitely have an effect on your body in the worst way. OCD affects all of these tasks in different ways, but each barrier I run into can be tracked down. So, just like she said, each barrier I run into can be tracked down. You have to just learn your lessons. You have to learn from these experiences and take them as a lesson. What I've learned is that, when I don't eat, or when I feel like I'm not going to eat, most times you are hungry, but you don't have that mental energy. You don't have that energy to really brainstorm what to eat, what to prepare. Think of, some food that you can make. You don't have the brain energy to think about any of that. So it's good to, when you do feel that energy, go ahead and whip something up real quick. And since you know that this is going on, and it could be going on for a few days, you're aware of it. So therefore, you go ahead and fix you up something, and that's what you'll be eating on for the next couple days. You have to just look out for yourself. So it says, but each barrier I run into can be traced back to OCD compulsions, fear, and avoidance. I have showered until my skin was raw, gone long periods of time without eating, and sustained on 2 hours of sleep per night due to avoidance and anxiety. And when I do eat junk food, it's easier and faster than healthy food. And when I do sleep, I sleep too much. This all takes a toll on the body. Let me read that part again. And when I do eat, junk food is easier and faster than healthy food. And when I do sleep, I sleep too much. This all takes a toll on the body. It feeds the exhaustion, which then continues the cycle. And it's certainly a hard cycle to break. You're already down, you're trying to get up, and then you get up and just think, you get up and you're eating pizza, takeout, stuff that isn't good for you. And guess what? You're back laying down. You often feel tired, sick, and undesirable. Sick, tired, and undesirable. Your mood starts to get down. You start to feel less confident. You start to feel insecure because you're not taking care of yourself, and you're left with an unkempt, uncomfortable home. But due to your illness, it can feel like you have no way out, because the way out is to go to the doctor, which means leaving your house. The way out is taking your medication, but that's simply another task you must add to the list of tasks you are too depressed to perform. There are many barriers to avoiding your quality of life. You'll most likely need help digging your way out this hole you've moved into, which will add to a sense of your dependence. But I am living proof that it can be done. So you basically will have to go back into those relationships. You didn't want to be codependent, so you separated yourself from the problem. And then, eventually you find yourself needing help. Who do you reach out to? I reach out to God. Feeling angry at OCD. OCD is incredibly debilitating and life-altering. So it follows that many feel a fair amount of anger. I went from being an independent, determined, intelligent person, a hardworking person, tugging her way through grad school, to a person so drained by fear and anxiety that I could hold down a job and I relied on someone else to help me get through every single day. My challenges used to be passing vet meds, exams, and studying until the sun came up. I liked those challenges. Then my challenges became getting out of bed, eating, and surviving. That's me all the way. I used to be all of those things back then. I used to be independent. I used to hold my own. I used to be able to do everything all at once. My one of the church members was just talking about, like, my driver to church. He was just talking about how he's in school, He does, you know, he just took on another job with driving, plus being a missionary, working for the church, stuff like that. I'm like, wow, you're juggling a lot. I remember when that used to be me. But then I feel like taking care of your health mentally all on your own is a challenge. Getting through this world is a challenge mentally, you know. Then my challenges became getting out of bed, eating, and surviving. And I'm angry about that, incredibly angry. I often find myself thinking it's unfair. But what I was saying was that, you know, I've showed my hand in the past, but as you grow up, it's hard to truly be who you are now. You know, those aren't my concerns anymore. I used to be that person. Yeah, I seem like superwoman. But what happens is that eventually that cape falls. And that fly becomes tiresome. You know? You don't want to fly anymore. You just want to sit. You want to rest. But you're expected to be more. They expect more out of you because they've seen what you did. They've seen who you were back then. As if you don't age. As if you don't grow up. As if you don't get tired. Just like them. They expect these things from you. And that's when you say, it's time to think about myself, regardless of how they feel, you know? If you disappoint them, you disappoint them. But it's better than disappointing yourself. Because disappointing yourself can have a lot to do with your health. I'm angry that I feel so much responsibility, sometimes wanting nothing more than not to care. I'm angry that I hurt all the time and that my mental illness just makes that worse. I'm so incredibly angry that I allow suicidal thoughts to enter my mind, and I'm angry about the guilt that follows those thoughts. I'm angry that I feel as though I'm missing out on my 20s because of this illness and that I have distanced myself from those I care about. And I'm angry this illness not only seeps into every aspect of my life, but my partner's as well. And the hardest thing about that anger is I don't know where to place it. We're told that we are not our OCD. We are even told to try and imagine our OCD as a separate being, even give it a name. But whoever my OCD is, it lives within me. I've been hosting it, listening to it, inviting it into our home. So most of this anger just gets placed back onto me. One more thing that weighs heavily on my shoulder. It's valid to feel angry. You're right. It's not fair. And OCD is one of the most effective bullies you will ever encounter. So be angry at it. Let the anger drive your path forward rather than let it weigh you down. I'm sure this list could go on, and each person with OCD will describe their symptoms a little differently. But I hope it gives you a little insight into what OCD really is and what it looks like for me. I hope it makes you pause and question. I hope it makes you look more critically at the way the media presents OCD and mental illness in general. These days, each one of these symptoms is affecting me less and less as I start to come out on top of this battle, but there's always the possibility and the fearful anticipation of another trigger. Boom. That part. I come across them daily, but I am better able to forge them. It's not always easy. Some days are better than others. Some days are a little step backward. But my hope for anyone out there is in the midst of their battle is that someday those little steps backward will be easier to overcome, and they won't make you feel defeated because they will happen, but they don't make you a failure. They make you a warrior. And with that being said, I hope this article helped y'all to reflect on any challenge that you're facing or any battle that you're facing today. And it just wakes you up a little bit and make you more self-aware. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all. And y'all have a wonderful rest of y'all day. And I will talk to y'all next time.